Good evening. It's Wednesday night. It's the State of Scottish Football. I am Graeme Duthie, and tonight I am joined for the first time by a man who's a Hibs supporter. So what could possibly go wrong? A jumbo of Hibs together. It's Mr. Conal Tracy. Conal, how are you doing, mate?
No bad. Yourself?
Not too bad, mate. You looking forward to your debut?
Of course. Some excellent football last night. Some hopefully excellent football tonight. You never know.
Don't know, did anything happen last night? I must have been out last night and missed everything. So we will talk, obviously, about Celtic against Real Madrid last night. We will also keep an eye on the game that started in Amsterdam. There is 15 minutes gone, and it is Ajax 0, Rangers 0. So any goals will let you know. We are here till 7 o'clock. But let us start with last night. So, Conal, Celtic 0, Real Madrid 3. Now, listen, there's no shame in getting beat by the European champions, but for first half especially, I thought Celtic gave as good as they got.
Yeah, I thought they were superb. It really looked. I thought they were so, as they have been in every game, just so aggressive. And I think it's not about disrespect. Like, people say that they show them too much respect when big teams come, and I thought this team just went for it, and you can't begrudge them for it. Yeah, they got in the end, but I think absolutely superb in that first half showing, and it really, really put Celtic on the map in European football again.
If you look at the team that came out, obviously Kyogo was on the bench. Celtic's bench was really, really strong last night, and they also brought Morris Jensen. But let's be honest, although Kyogo was out, bringing Giakoumakis in didn't weaken them at all.
No, Giakoumakis brings something completely different to Kyogo, but as we've seen, like that rotation just works. The guy's big physical presence, goal scorer, but I think the whole mantra of "we don't stop." I think it goes to every single player, no matter Giakoumakis, Kyogo, Maeda. It doesn't matter who you've got in those roles. I think they all know exactly what they're doing.
I can tell you, 16 minutes gone. It is Ajax 1, Rangers 0. They've just scored. I'm not entirely sure who it is, but it is 1-0 to Ajax after 16 minutes. We'll obviously get back to talking about Celtic in a minute, but that's the last thing that Rangers needed after that result on Saturday, Conal.
They really could have done with holding out till for a while at least, and hopefully giving themselves a good go at the second half. But I think, the defence at the moment, that's another corner they've conceded there. That's going to be a real worry for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just watching it now. That is awful defending. It's a free header in the 6-yard box. Nobody near him. It's a good header, to be fair, but it's so poor. Van Bronckhorst is going to be absolutely raging with that, and the goal scorer is Alvarez.
It's 4 sloppy goals on Saturday, and then you think of this one a set piece, and it's just, I think the 2 in the PSV game were both of them set pieces as well. I think it's really, really, it's not just a coincidence anymore, and I think Rangers fans will be getting a little bit worried that this is becoming a trend.
We had this conversation on Monday after the game on Saturday. Are you surprised after the mistakes that he made that John McLaughlin has kept his place and McGregor's not come straight back in?
McLaughlin, although Saturday was brutal, has been solid for Rangers. I think McGregor, he should have gone last season. At the end of last season, I think it looked like he was, but then also his European performances have been excellent over the years. I'm surprised to see McLaughlin start tonight. I think McGregor, if he'd come in, he would have he would have known the gloves were on the line, and I think he would have put in an absolute belter of performance, in all honesty. I think sticking McLaughlin, it's nice to show faith, but there's no harm in starting McLaughlin in the league and starting McGregor in Europe. I think that's probably the way I would have gone with.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. We will keep you updated, but 90 minutes gone now. Ajax 1, Rangers 0. A long way to go on that. But let's get back to Celtic last night. You know, we spoke about before that, Celtic start the games very quickly, especially at Celtic Park, the way they started against Rangers and the way they started many games this season. And after about 30 seconds yesterday, Lila Bada has a shot blocked. They got a corner about a minute later. Celtic started that game with a really good intensity last night.
Oh, it's so much fun to watch a team just all they want to do is score goals. I think it's nice when you see a team under Rodgers, especially. It was good football. It could be a slow build up, but it was excellent football. I think last night showed you just what Ange wants them doing, and it's from the off. Even the corner that fell after that shot, there's two of them round it, all ready to go, wanting to take it quick, constantly. They talked on Saturday about the ball boys and ball girls getting the ball back in quick. That's all they want to do. They want the ball in play as much as possible and see what they can do. It is excellent to watch.
I mean, Celtic had quite a few chances in that first half yesterday. Madrid had a couple of chances as well, don't get me wrong. But if you look at the chance that falls to Callum McGregor, it's brilliant hold-up play by Giakoumakis. McGregor off the post. And I think if he scores that, I think the roof comes off Celtic Park.
Yeah, I was watching it last night and almost out my seat when he hit the post. Honestly, I thought it clipped and gone in. But you're right. It would have been. It's a totally different game if Celtic had scored in that first half and that McGregor chance, and even after that McGregor chance, you see the ball's rolling out, and Juranovic is running after it like it's the 90th minute in a cup final. They they were so desperate to score, and I think the McGregor one, he hits it so sweet, and it's just especially for him. I thought he was excellent last night. It would have been special if he'd scored that opener, and it would have been a completely different game.
I've actually realised I missed a chance earlier on. An absolutely sensational pass from Jota splits the defence, and Lila Bada, I don't think it does a lot wrong. It's a decent save by the keeper. But I am actually thinking the way that Abada started the season, when he goes through on goal, I'm just thinking he's going to score.
Yeah, the pass was just out of this world. It's just unbelievable. But Abada, I thought last night, I think it looks like he takes it on the stretch. I think he might be a little bit nervous that the defender's coming in. But yeah, I thought, like you say, the way he started this season, you could put your house on him scoring that. Just a really good chance. But I think he took it maybe slightly too early.
Do you think maybe he should have chopped it back on his left foot, tried to take the defender out the game, and then maybe had that shot at goal?
I think so, yeah. I think he definitely could have given himself the option to do so, even if he'd gone a little bit wider with it and tried to get it across goal or, like you say, chop it back and even look to see if someone else is coming in. I think he rushed it a little bit too much, but you can't criticise the guy too much. He's been excellent so far.
100%. And I think, you're looking at that Madrid side and you think it's a massive boost that Benzema goes off injured and then they bring on Eden Hazard. It didn't get any easier for Celtic after that, really, did it?
No, I really thought when Benzema went off, Hazard, everyone knows what's been going on since he's gone to Real Madrid. He's not been the same player. He's had these fitness issues. But I really did think, this might give them a wee lift, and Hazard was brilliant. He ended up being excellent. So it's almost the same as when in the league when Celtic take off Kyogo and bring on Giakoumakis. You can't complain too. It's just I thought that's what Real Madrid are. They're the European champions for a reason. They've got that strength and depth.
I mean, if you're looking at that Celtic midfield, you've got Hatate, you've got O'Reilly, you've got McGregor, and they're up against guys like Tuchemeni, you've got Luka Modric, who was just exceptional, and you've got Toni Kroos. The standard that Celtic played against last night was incredible, but for a long spell in that game, they more than matched them.
Yeah, I think the midfield was always going to be the exciting battle with the players that Celtic have in there. Like O'Reilly and Hatate are just so much fun to watch play football. I think Hatate hit that unbelievable volley crossfield ball, and the pair of them. So like it would have been. It was a really really interesting battle, and then you've got World Cup winners and Ballon d'Or winners, €100 million players. Sorry, and it was an interesting battle, but Celtic didn't do themselves a disservice. And I thought, as I said earlier, McGregor was excellent. O'Reilly and Hatate had their moments to shine. It wasn't as one-sided as it had the right to be, and I think so much credit for that midfield for that.
You could talk about that whole Celtic team, but I just want to touch on Matt O'Reilly. Now, he's only 21. A year ago, he was playing against Cheltenham Town for MK Dons, and now he's playing against Real Madrid. I mean, that boy's come full circle, really. You could never expect him to line up against a team like Real Madrid.
He's the fact. I keep reminding myself that he's 21. He's such a he plays with such maturity, and he will go for so much money. He will make Celtic so much money. The fact that he was unopposed, Celtic were pretty much unopposed when they signed him, and ever since he's come in, he's been excellent. I think full credit to him, like you say, Cheltenham Town a year ago, Real Madrid last night, and he didn't look out of place at all.
If you look at the second half, when Ange Postecoglou gets Celtic in at half-time, he must have been delighted with how they played that first half. And then a couple of minutes after half-time, obviously Maeda's come on. Maeda's got a great chance to put Celtic 1-0 up. That might have changed the game if he scores that.
It was a head and hands moment for, I think, everyone. Maeda, he needs to bury it. And I know I've been critical of Maeda. I feel bad because he brings a lot to that team and he brings a different element to that team. But you can run around and put as much effort in as you want, and I think he does an excellent job. But at the end of the day, if chances like that are presented to him, he's got to score. And like I say, it could have changed the game and really done Celtic a lot of good.
26 minutes gone in Amsterdam. It's still Ajax 1, Rangers 0, but I've got to say, Ajax are dominating this. They're getting in behind numerous times. And Rangers are struggling to deal with this. They can't get out at the moment. They've not got an out ball. And I've got to be honest, I'll probably jinx myself now when I say this, but I can see a second goal for Ajax coming very, very quickly.
Yeah, they're just popping it around with ease at the moment. Rangers don't really look like... Oh, there's even a chance here. They don't look... Rangers... It's not the same Rangers that were in the Europa League last season. And I think that Ibrox did wonders for them. Every game was different. They went away from home and just had to keep themselves in the tie so they could go back to Ibrox. And it's a completely different game. And I'm sure it'll be the same here if they... When Ajax go to Ibrox, but it's worrying for Rangers that they're not really looking like being in this tie at all.
I was on Twitter earlier, as I tend to do, and I was watching the Rangers team news coming through, and I saw a lot of Rangers fans very critical of the Rangers team news, and a lot of Rangers fans saying Gio should be sacked. I mean, how much pressure do you think Van Bronckhorst is actually under?
You never know in world football now with some of the sackings in recent weeks, but I think with Gerrard built himself a good team that European run last season. Van Bronckhorst has to be given credit, but it was mainly Gerrard's team. However, Gerrard probably would have gone if it wasn't for this season being struck off for COVID. I think if Celtic had just won that season outright, I think Gerrard would have gone. So the pressure that the pair of them put each other on, and with Celtic looking like world beaters at the moment, it will do nothing for Van Bronckhorst's case. And I think maybe one or two trip-ups in the league, and he could really be on a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'm just still watching this game. I actually got a chance here. They're through. Oh, good block there. But just going back to Celtic last night again, I mean, the game was taken away in 4 minutes. You know, you've got Vinicius Junior scores after 56, a really good goal. And then Luka Modric, who for me, as I said, was probably the standout player on the pitch last night at 37-year-old, which was quite scary. But, you know, the game was taken away, 2-0 down. And to be fair to Celtic, you know, for as much as Real Madrid started to dominate the second half, I have to say, the Celtic crowd was really, really good last night because they kept with Celtic all the way.
I think that's what Postecoglou's got them. He's got them believing. He's given them a team to be proud of. They're not shying away from the challenge. You saw that last night. And players and teams always come and say how good the atmosphere at Celtic Park is. It was electric last night. The roar when the Champions League anthem was going on. But even throughout the game at 3-0, they weren't shying away from it. They're still cheering their team on because the team gave them something to cheer. The fans and the players and the management. Celtic's a really, really seems like a really, really good place to be right now.
I'm glad you spoke about the atmosphere there because I just wanted to touch on this. Now, obviously, as a Hearts fan, you're a Hibs fan, with an Aberdeen fan, Rangers fan, whatever. European nights are a completely different occasion to our normal run-of-the-mill league game. They're really special nights. And again, you got that feeling last night just watching the game on TV, the way the Celtic fans got right behind Celtic. European nights are just such a special, special night.
Oh, you saw it last season, as I've spoken on before, like that, the Ibrox effect. Like Ibrox, I would say, gave Rangers such a push last season. Last night with Celtic Park, like teams will go to Parkhead and be afraid now. Like it's as how much of an how much of an impact it has. Even Tynecastle, to like Hearts should fancy themselves at least to take away a point in every single one of those group stage games, because why not? They've got 20,000 fans behind them, and Tynecastle's an intimidating place to go, whether it's League or Europe. As a Hibs fan, a fair share of terrible times at Tynecastle, but it is an intimidating ground, and Parkhead and Ibrox and all these, like, Scotland has such passionate fans. I think when you see that coming through, and European and teams come all over Europe and see that, it is an intimidating place to come.
For some reason, Kilmarnock never seem intimidated to Tynecastle. I don't know what that is. But, I mean, that third goal goes in from Real Madrid last night, and it's a really good finish from Eden Hazard. But again, as I said, Celtic never gave up. They still tried. They didn't have a lot of chances, but they never gave up.
No, they kept going, and they played the game throughout like it was 0-0. And yeah, Real Madrid showed their class sort of 15, 20 minutes in that second half, and they had the chances in the first half as well. But I think that's it. It's so encouraging. It will be so encouraging to see that Celtic went right 3-0 down. We still got a push. You don't stop going, and I think that was the crowd really took to that. The fact that Celtic still created chances at 3-0 down. It wasn't like Real Madrid down tools. Real Madrid were playing at the same tempo, but Celtic just they kept striving, and all credit to them.
Now, James Sands, I don't think had a particularly great game against Celtic at the weekend, and he has just scored an own goal. It is now Ajax 2, Rangers 0 after 31 minutes. To be fair, there's not a lot he can do about it. It's a ball into the box. He sticks his leg out to try and deflect it away, and it goes past the helpless John McLaughlin and into the net. So after 32 minutes, it is now Ajax 2, Rangers 0. And Conal, it is a long, long way back for Rangers.
Oof, I think they've just scored again. Ajax, there you go. This is a disaster. This could be 4 or 5 if Rangers aren't careful. I mean, when you're a team that's just conceded 4 to your main rivals on Saturday, I think you really hoped for a good defensive showing tonight, and they are getting torn apart.
By the way, I've actually just seen it. I've just seen the third goal. It's a brilliant, brilliant goal. But one thing I will say, now I am not having a go at him here. I think James Tavernier is an excellent player, but I've never been a fan of him defensively. I think he's good going forward, and he's been done like an absolute kipper for that goal.
Tavernier has been one of the best players in Scotland in the last, when they come in 2015, sorry. It's the last 6-7 years. He's been excellent for Rangers, and he's done so much for the club, but there will always be question marks over his defensive abilities. And even when he was in the Championship, there was signs that he wasn't the greatest defender in the world. His goals and his important moments for Rangers have helped him through that, but you do see it. You see it too many times, I think, for a lot of people, that you see him getting done so easily in defence and losing his man and all these sorts of things. I think the goals can cancel it out sometimes, but I can't see it happening tonight anyway.
By the way, it's a wonderful, wonderful strike for the third goal. There's nothing McLaughlin can do about it. And now, in the space of 2 games, John McLaughlin has conceded 7 goals. And to be fair, there's nothing to do about any of the goals tonight.
No, it's unfortunate for him, because he'll be wanting the ground to swallow him up right now. That no one spanked in off the post. Like, there's not much he can do about any of them at all. but when it's not going for you, it's not going for you. And I think the defence are it's a real struggle at the moment. And I think when you look at it and see all four of the defenders starting tonight were all there last season, and McLaughlin there last season, Rangers would have hoped that they really improved, and they did bring in reinforcements in defence, and I know Suter's out for his own reasons, but I think when the others aren't starting, it's quite worrying.
I mean, Conal, listen, this is pretty much the same Rangers back four that conceded 4 against Celtic. They've conceded 3 tonight, and let's be honest, it could be more the way this is going. If you're Van Bronckhorst, you've got a massive game against Aberdeen at Pittodrie on Saturday. What do you do now?
It's bizarre. I don't really know how he's going to change things, and I think when you've got it does when I think in comparison to Celtic now, and that's what happens with Old Firm. You have to compare them all times. In comparison to Celtic, they just look like they've got such a really, really weak team. I think Cholak and Tillman have been excellent so far, but when like Scott Wright, don't get me wrong, I think he's a good footballer, but Scott Wright shouldn't be starting for Rangers on the right wing in the Champions League game. It's, in my opinion anyway, it's as simple as that. And I think what Van Bronckhorst needs to do is, again, understand his best 11, because he's definitely not playing it now.
The funniest thing is, Ajax are 3-0 up. You've got Connor Golson and James Sands at the back for Rangers. You're looking at the Ajax team, and they've got ex-Rangers player Calvin Bassou, who's strolling around the pitch like he owns the place. He's had nothing to do so far. He's not been tested at all.
Bassey was the big loss for Rangers last season, and obviously you can't replace a £25 million player, which he will go for more than that in the future. I'm convinced. I think he's an excellent footballer, but it is worrying. I think it must be very, very worrying for Rangers fans when you look at, as you say, Calvin Bassey strolling about with nothing to do, and their defence looking at all sorts. Goldson signing that new deal, and he's not looked great so far this season in the games that mattered.
100%. I've no doubt we'll probably come back to this game later. There's only 37 minutes gone. Still Ajax 3, Rangers 0. I may be saying more goals shortly. You never know. But let's go back to the champions last night. I mean, let's be honest, Conal. You're playing against the European champions. It was never going to be easy. But do you think Postecoglou will take positives, especially from the first half performance?
I think he's got to. I think he's seen that his team will go toe-to-toe with the European champions, and I think that he needs to... There was no shame in that Celtic performance last night. Yeah, the goals they conceded it's unfortunate, but there are 3 good goals. I think Hazard's excellent for all 3 of them, and the first one he screens Jens out the way, and he's completely taken out of the game. But there's no shame in the goals, really, in the goals they conceded. There's no shame in that defeat. Postecoglou's got to look at it and go, right, it's a stumbling block, but there's 5 more games to come. Why not go at it the same as... That's the hardest, probably second hardest game out the road. Why not go at the rest of them like they did last night?
I'll be honest, I thought it might be between Celtic and Leipzig for that second place because Real Madrid are going to win the group. I was not expecting Shakhtar Donetsk to go to Germany yesterday and win by 4-1. That was a huge shock. And obviously on the back of that, RB Leipzig sacked the manager today. So, I mean, Celtic's next game is against Shakhtar. That now becomes a really big game for Celtic.
Oh, 100%. That's the one that Celtic fans will have been looking at since obviously Real Madrid is the showpiece. But if Celtic want to progress, or even Europa League as well, after December, they know that Shakhtar and Leipzig are the games they've got to take points from, and I think Marian Shved scored 2 last night, so I'm sure Celtic fans will be worrying about his return. But yeah, I really didn't see that result coming, but I suppose anything can happen in European football. They're all there for a reason at the end of the day, so no easy games.
Some of the football Ajax are playing here is just incredible, I'll be honest. Some of the touches, some of the one-touch football is unbelievable. And Rangers just can't get near them. Like, they're chasing shadows, literally chasing shadows. I mean, I'm not being funny, this could end up 5 or 6 if this carries on this way.
it will be damage control at this point for me. I think they can't go from 4-0 on Saturday to like you say, it could be 5 or 6 tonight. It'll be a real worry, and that's McLaughlin just made a good save there. But it's Pittodrie on Saturday. I'm sure he'll be bouncing. If Rangers have 6 or 7 put past them tonight, then there's no reason that Aberdeen can't go and have a go at them.
Well, Aberdeen are renowned for obviously playing well against Rangers, so that's a very big possibility. But in terms of Celtic, I mean, it was always going to be difficult for them yesterday, but I still think, and I do believe they can still get out this group. And I think we've spoken on the show numerous times about the fact that Ange Postecoglou has got he's such a good manager. Even as a Hearts fan, he just comes across as a really likeable character. And I don't think there's any chance that he'll let those Celtic players be down for far too long about last night.
No, I think after last night's showing, you would actually. I'm now almost expecting them to have a good chance of coming out of that group. I think with the squad, the depth he has, it's incredible. And I think last season what let them down a little bit was they played so well with such high intensity in that first half, and it was the second half that sort of, if they were only 1 goal up, the other team were still in it. And playing that intensity and then having European football as well, it was killing them. But it's this season he's keeps making those triple subs on the hour mark, and the strength and depth that he's got, they will just keep going. And I think it should be. I think at least at Parkhead, Leipzig and Shakhtar will be scared to go there, and there's no reason they can't get out that group.
I mean, just looking at that Celtic squad last night, they named 12 subs. I know 2 of them were goalkeepers, but you just look at the rest of that squad. You've got Alex Maeda, you've got David Turnbull, you've got Aaron Moy, you've got Haksabanovic. You've got such quality on that bench to call on. And, I mean, you've got to say, Postecoglou has really, really done so well in that transfer window to sign not just good players, but quality players.
Oh, I think they've had an excellent transfer window. Again, signing some relatively unknowns, but you don't want to be a selling club. But Celtic are going to make millions off of these guys that they've brought in, especially like a lot of them are quite young as well. And he's got a real knack for picking out diamonds. Postecoglou, it seems, because the guys that he's brought in, he's not really missed at all. And I mean, getting Jota back was always it seemed like their priority, and he's just a class act. So I think even in January, we'll get to January, and I'm sure Postecoglou will pick up 1 or 2 that he sees fit, and that'll be it. But it's frightening. It is really frightening, the strength and depth that Celtic have. They could name two 11s of teams that would be capable of winning the league. So yeah, I think it's a very, very scary start of something for Celtic.
I'm not saying this as a negative in any way whatsoever, but Celtic in that first half especially put so much into that game. Now, when you play with that much intensity in the Premier League, you can do that because you're playing against, no disrespect, but my team, Hib, St Mirren, St Johnstone. When you're playing in European games like last night, it is very difficult to keep that intensity up for 90 minutes.
I think we saw that last night as well. They ran out of steam maybe a sort of 10, 15 minutes into that second half. And you saw that was when Real Madrid took charge and showed their class. But there's those substitutions that Postecoglou keeps making is the way forward, and the 5-sub rule now changes that. I know, obviously, they're going to be playing teams like Shakhtar and Leipzig and Real Madrid that aren't short of quality themselves, and because obviously make those subs as well and freshen things up. But I think if they can, it is all about that first half. And as it was for much of last season, if they can go in a first half and come away with 1 or 2 goals and just try and keep that intensity up as long as they can, then they should be going okay. But as you say, you don't want to burn out. You don't want any players picking up knocks for what is an important league campaign. But they showed that they can keep that intensity going. Even the last 10 minutes, they were fighting. So You never know.
I don't know how old you are, Conal, but I've seen a lot of fantastic football players, on TV and stuff. But Luka Modric, at 37-year-old, the guy is just a class act. I mean, he ran that game for a lot of that last night. He's just such a phenomenal footballer, and to still be going at 37, just what a magnificent footballer that boy is. I could have watched him all night last night because he is such a quality player.
I'm sick of the sight of him, to be honest, because he was ruined our lives at the Euros. I'm sure Cal McGregor's feeling the same way, but I think he's phenomenal, and there's a reason that he's won so many Champions Leagues and won the Ballon d'Or. He's just different class, and I think he got a standing ovation last night when he went off the park from Celtic fans, and those are the moments that you sort of go like, you appreciate. It's when everyone's got to appreciate the quality he has, and obviously Real Madrid and Spanish football's never been short of quality midfielders, but he's up there with the best.
When you watch teams like Real Madrid, every pass is quick, it's sharp, the first touch is accurate. You don't really get that in Scottish football today. I mean, Celtic can do it, Rangers at times can do it, but you don't get that from other teams in Scotland where if a guy's got a man on him, you don't give him the ball, whereas Madrid players are so comfortable, all of them want to take the ball, and it's just a joy to watch.
That's the thing. We enjoy our football for the laughs and the special moments that we get, like a 9-0 scudding against Dundee United. That's always fun for everyone. But I think the reason that we turn on the telly in midweek to watch these teams, and it does show you, it shows you what we want to strive to be in, like, our country, and we want to have these players that can do all these things. But it's an absolute joy to watch, and you're watching guys like Modric, and I thought Hazard was back to sort of Chelsea Hazard last night. I thought he was superb, and yeah, just the Toni Kroos is a phenomenal talent. I love watching him play football. It's these guys that you turn on the telly because you go, I want to watch him. I want to watch him. We don't get as much in Scottish football, but it's I think that showed the quality last night against Celtic, but Celtic didn't sit back and enjoy watching them play football. They went at it, and that's where we need to give respect to Celtic, is that Celtic fans could easily thought it was an exhibition match, because that they've had against PSG in the past and Man City and teams like that. But I think they showed that that's not what they're in Champions League for. They're there for blood, and they tried last night.
It's half-time in Amsterdam. It is Ajax 3, Rangers 0, and no word of a lie to anyone who hasn't watched this game. This could have been a lot more. Ajax have totally dominated the game. They've controlled it. Rangers have created very little, and as Conal has rightly said already, defensively, Rangers are in absolute shambles right now.
They will be. They need to change something. I don't know what they can change at the back right now, because you've got 2-3 players probably that are nailed on starters, Goldson and Tavernier, and even Borna Barisic to a certain extent. But actually, I would say Borna Barisic. I thought he was one of Rangers' better players on Saturday, at least going forward. But they can't keep the same defensive line and expect different results from last season. Obviously, the season before under Gerrard, the COVID season, they didn't concede many goals, but that's 2 years ago now, and it's looking a long way from that team that conceded about 12 goals in the league or whatever it was at one point. I think they're looking so far off of that, and McGregor's not starting these games. McLaughlin's a decent goalkeeper. I don't personally think that he should be a Rangers number one, but I think they really, really need to change something at the back.
I'm just looking at the Rangers subs. They've got Alan McGregor, Ridvan Yilmaz, Ryan Jack, Stephen Davis, Rabbi Matondo, Alfredo Morelos, Ben Davis, Robbie McCrory, Fashion Sakala, Scott Arfield, Leon King, and Adam Devine. I mean, defensively, there's not really much on that bench to change it. And going forward, I mean, they're not really creating much anyway, so I don't think there's any point in bringing Alfredo Morelos on. Would you bring Scott Arfield on? But again, I mean, there's not really much on that bench that's going to change anything for me.
No, the defensive options there, like Yilmaz and Davies, came in with a little bit of fanfare and obviously like good pedigree. But as I say, Barisic I can't really see being dropped at the moment. Maybe you could do Davies for Sands, but Sands until maybe Saturday had been going all right this season. The Arfield makes an impact on games where Rangers need a goal. I don't know how much of an impact he can make in this game where they're struggling and really need to sort of shut up shop a little bit. And you've got Morelos, who goes between. I love Alfredo Morelos. I think he's absolute box office for an excellent footballer and obviously a lot of fun. But I think if you're being scudded, I wouldn't chance bringing Alfredo Morelos on in case he does something he shouldn't.
Put yourself, if you can, in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's boots just now. You're at half-time in that game. You're 3-0 down, having just conceded 4 to Celtic. What do you do?
I think it is damage control. I think it's sad because you would be thinking on the other side of Glasgow, you're going, they would get at them. Why couldn't they score more goals? But I think tonight, honestly, I think you can't start your first Champions League game in 10 years, whatever it is, and have more than 4 or 5 put past you, especially after Saturday. I think you've got to shore things up a little bit. Ryan Jack's not had an excellent start to the season, but I think Ryan Jack's a good player. Potentially, it's extremely difficult because if Van Bronckhorst brings on a sub to shore things up, Rangers fans will go at him saying he's too negative and they'll just accept defeat. But I think if I'm Van Bronckhorst, I'm worrying for my job a little bit if this gets ugly. So I think you take the hit on the night and move on.
I know it's difficult to say, but is it a case of, you just spoke about damage limitation, rightly so, but is it a case of the game's done? I mean, I can't see if we just get back into this because we've created nothing. Is it a case of take off who you think is a couple of your best players because you've got a massive game against Aberdeen on Saturday? And let's be honest, if Aberdeen win that game and Celtic beat Livingston at home, which is expect them to do, Celtic are 8 points in front already, and that's a massive gap to pull back.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, with the 5 changes especially, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw changes around our mark that were your likes of Cholax and maybe Tillman or Arfield. And I think he might, especially with the half 12 kickoff on Saturday as well. I think he's maybe got to look forward a little bit. And as I said before, you shouldn't be looking past this game, and you shouldn't just think that it's over. But I think it probably is at this point. And honestly, if he wants to, as you say, you don't want to get to Saturday and get beat. It'll just make things worse. So I think he's got to look ahead to Saturday now and really make sure he doesn't lose that game, Pittodrie.
I think Pittodrie is the last place you want to go after a defeat like this, and that's going to be such a difficult game for Van Bronckhorst. I mean, as I said, if they lose that and Celtic, as you'd expect, beat Livingston 8 points behind already at this early stage in the season. Again, I've asked you earlier, is Van Bronckhorst going to be under pressure? And I think if they were to lose, obviously tonight I think they will, if they then lose on Saturday, I think Van Bronckhorst is going to have a lot of questions to ask. You look at today, what's happened with Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel, last season, he won the Champions League 18 months ago. He was only beaten by Liverpool in the FA Cup final and League Cup final. And Chelsea have sacked him because results weren't going well. I mean, Van Bronckhorst could be under serious, serious pressure now.
That's the thing, we're seeing it nowadays, that triggers get pulled quicker and quicker and quicker. And with Rangers and Celtic, we've seen it before where, especially with Celtic left it too late with Lennon. And I think you've got to act quickly. You can't allow things to get worse. So yeah, I honestly think if they were to get beat on Saturday, especially such a high-profile game, Aberdeen Rangers are a massive fixture. Aberdeen going all right at the moment. Pittodrie will be bouncing, I'm sure. I do think that he would be under serious pressure if he was to lose that game on Saturday, especially if they get scudded tonight. So I think you would have to look at who you can maybe bring in, but they would have to act quickly if they want to make up as you say, it would be 8 points if Celtic win. That's a long way to go. You've got Champions League, European football on the line. You've still got cups to play for. You can't let it get worse before it gets better, which I think it could under Van Bronckhorst.
Jack Rothstein got a job. Just saying, he's available. But just, but just again looking at Celtic, I mean, obviously yesterday disappointing, but that's not going to be an end all of their season. They've got Livingston on Saturday. I would think that Celtic will make changes to freshen it up, but as I've said earlier, they can afford to do that because the squad they've got is so impressive.
Yeah, I would expect a lot. I would expect a fair few changes on Saturday, especially because they ran themselves into the ground last night. I think Livingston a difficult game, whoever you are, they will always make it difficult for you. And I think Celtic have had difficulties against Livingston at Parkhead, and especially in Livingston. I think, yeah, but as you say, even if they make 5 or 6 changes on Saturday, it's not really going to make a difference. It'll be the same type of football and same attitude. Just go and win it and see how many goals you can score. And if Celtic get an early goal on Saturday, then it could be a slaughtering again.
I want to touch about Greg Taylor. Now, when Ange Postecoglou first came in, I think a lot of Celtic fans thought that's the end of Greg Taylor. And he's now lining up against Real Madrid. And for me, he's probably been the most improved player at Celtic. I mean, what have you made of Greg Taylor so far for Celtic?
He's been, this season especially, he's been excellent. He got that, I remember, I think it was at Scottish Cup semi-final last season, he scored against Rangers, and it felt like a real moment. I know Celtic went on to lose that game, but it felt like a real moment in the sort of an arc for Greg Taylor, because people had these doubts about him, and they brought in loads of players to replace him, and he just keeps sticking around. And I'm delighted to see him do so well, because I think it was last season League Cup final against Hibs. I remember watching him, and he was sitting inside and sort of playing that inverted wing-back role that Ange likes to play sometimes. And I think maybe 2 years before it, you wouldn't have thought Greg Taylor would be able to pull that off. And you can see how much he's improved as a footballer, as his understanding of the game, understanding what his manager wants him to do. So yeah, it's superb. It's frustrating as a Scotland fan because there's another left back that's not going to play games. But it's superb to see that he's come on leaps and bounds.
Hibs haven't played Celtic yet, but I think if you look through that whole Celtic team, they've just got so much quality. And one of the players, we could talk about numerous Celtic players, but Jota, I've said before, and I think other folk have said in their show as well, he's probably the best player in Scotland right now. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think he is. There's players that come along in Scotland every so often, and I think Edouard was one of them. With these guys that you enjoy watching, Morelos for different reasons. But Jota's just he can do what he wants in the game. Really, he is just a class act. And I think when he first came in, people might have just thought flicks and tricks and nothing, but his end product's unbelievable. You've seen the goals he's scored already this season. He got 3 assists up at County. He's just absolutely phenomenal. I think, he will make Celtic a lot of money. He's 100% the best player in Scotland right now.
Even if you look at the goal he scored against Rangers on Saturday there, I mean, it's a great ball from Matt O'Reilly, who was outstanding that day. But to have the composure just to lift it over McLaughlin, it was just so impudent, so cheeky, and that is Jota all over. He's full of flicks and tricks. He was quieter last night, but he was up against a very good, experienced defender. But I just think Jota is one of these players that you would pay the money to watch. He's an entertainer. And as a football fan, yes, you want your team to win. But see if you go into a game and watching a guy like him, a guy that gets you out your seat, that's what you want to watch.
Oh, 100%. I think you've put it like nail on the head there. Entertainer. That's exactly what he is. And even last night, he was quieter. But as you said, that pass through Abada, that's what you pay to see. You pay to see this guy do things that you don't see done very often in Scottish football, especially. He's just unbelievable. The goal on Saturday it takes a player with a lot of confidence to do that, and Jota is a player with a lot of confidence, but he's not. There's there's an arrogance to him, but in a brilliant way, and it's arrogance that you want your players to have, that they can run and take on anyone and do anything with a football that no one else in that league can do. And Jota just oozes it. I think he's such a superb talent, and Celtic had to get him back this summer, and I'm delighted that they did.
Do you think Celtic can go to the Ukraine next week and get a result against Shakhtar? Obviously, yesterday was a massive shock that they beat Leipzig, as I said earlier. But you've got to think Celtic won't fear going there, because Celtic, for me, are a better side than Shakhtar. It will be tough, but do you still think Celtic can get a result there?
I think they can definitely get a result there. As I said before, there's no easy games. Away from home in Europe is always a tricky tie. But there's no reason, we've not seen any reason to doubt them yet. Shakhtar got an excellent result last night and looked to be superb by all accounts. And I think it'll be a tough match for Celtic. But if they can go there and do what they've done to everyone else that they've played this season, they'll be confident, and there's no reason for them not to be and to go there with any fear.
Now, we've got about 50 minutes left of this show tonight. It's just about to start the second half. Ajax against Rangers, still 3-0. Now, because we've got 50 minutes left, and Colin can't cut me off because I'm hosting, I could talk about Hearts for the next 50 minutes. I won't. I will get to her shortly. But because Conal is on the show and he's a Hibs fan, I want to get your thoughts on Hibs so far this season. It's been kind of stop-start. I think they've done a lot of business in the transfer window, 16 signings. I think bringing Martin Boyle back was a really good signing, as I well know from that Hearts game a few weeks ago, but we'll talk about that. But what have you made of Hibs so far this season? Are you happy with what you've done so far? Are you happy with the business you've done? What's your thoughts so far?
I think when we brought in the players that we brought in sort of summertime, when it was before the League Cup had started, I think you had a lot of Hibs fans really excited for the season, because we had all these young guys, all these unknowns that Hibs don't normally sign unknowns. We normally sign players from down south or off other Scottish teams. I think you looked at it and you went, this could be a really exciting season, because we'll now get other players that we need, a centre-half, a central midfielder, a striker, that we've ended up getting. But the start to the season, late goals, a lot of fun. We haven't scored them for a very, very long time. The goal at St Johnstone was a massive one. Goal against Hearts, obviously, was a bit of fun. Even the Rangers game as well. And I think, watching from what I've seen of Hibs this season, the Rangers game, that was, I think, second half at times anyway, we played some excellent stuff, and we looked, albeit we're against 9 men for the last 10 minutes, we looked decent. I think that it was a good kick-off point, and then to go to St Mirren like the next game week, and just they could have put 4 or 5. I was sat in that way and just head in hands for the whole game, because they could have put 5 or 6 past us at the end of that game. There was no intensity. We've talked about Celtic, the intensity. It's the opposite at Hibs sometimes this season. And I think on Saturday it was a good result, a needed result. But had it not been for Kelly being down to 10 men and scoring instantly, I know a fair few Hibs fans that think that we might actually not got the result. So business-wise, they still should have brought in another central defender. We've been screaming for one for about 5 years now. An experienced defender at that, and we've still not got one. I think there's a lot of players that we will have to watch over the season to understand if it's good business or not. Nohan Kenny looks like a decent acquisition. He's still very young, so you never know. Cabraja looks like a good signing. McCurdy, by all accounts, should be a good signing. And you got Boyle coming back. Somehow Rocky Bashiri was Hibs' best defender before he got injured after what was last season, and Hibs fans complaining that he came back. But when you got sort of Jair Tavares as an unknown and maybe more of a development player right now, Mamadou Bojang had that horrendous miss to add to his horrendous misses so far this season. I think it could really go either way, and that's as much as I can speak on Hibs right now. It could honestly go either way for Hibs. It might all click, it might all come together at one point, but it could also be a disaster. And that is Hibs in a nutshell every single season.
If you go back to that St Mirren game, I think it was the week before, St Mirren did deserve to win. But a player that I actually do like at Hibs, a Hearts fan like an Hibs player, who knew? But a player that I've actually been quite impressed with is Eli Yuan, and he misses an absolute sitter. And for me, I think Eli Yuan's a really good player, but for me, he's not a natural finisher from what I've seen so far.
No, I think it's we needed a striker, and I think that Yuan is. I think he's excellent. I think he injects something in Hibs that Boyle does as well, and to have them on either side could be really, really dangerous. We've looked great on the counter attack, but a lot of team Easter Road being on the counter attack at Easter Road is pointless unless you're playing Hearts, Celtic, or Rangers. So I think Eli Yuan he's looked sharp. He needs a goal, and I think he thinks he needs a goal, so he keeps shooting from all angles. And as you say, he's not exactly a natural finisher, so it's not going too well for him. But he is one that I think could come good, but he needs to be taken away from that sort of central position and played out wide to give us something else. But yeah, definitely impressed with him. He did brilliantly for the goal against Hearts, and yeah, I think he could be. I think he's the one. If out of all the unknowns, I think he could be the one that comes really good for us.
There's absolutely no doubt Hibs have missed Kevin Nisbet. There's no getting away from that. Were you surprised that Hibs let Christian Deutsch go? And obviously it's gone to Kilmarnock. He's not played yet because he couldn't last week because of the loan agreement. Were you surprised that they let him go, or was that the right decision from Hibs?
I think Deutsch always, from the start of the summer, there was a lot of people thinking that Deutsch would go. It's a shame because he very well liked around the club. He had an excellent first season. Even this second season, when he started to link up with Nisbet and Boyle, I thought he's great. Then he had his injury last season. He had COVID as well, and he never ever recovered. And it looked like he was maybe going to recover after a hat trick against Clyde in the first half an hour of the season, but with typical Christian Deutsch goals hitting him all over his body and just somehow finding his way into the net. But from the start of the season, it's not looked like a player that is good enough to play for Hibs. And yeah, after St Mirren last week, it was like playing with 10 men at times, which is devastating because I really do like Christian Deutsch and I hope he does really well at Kelly. But it would have been a surprise if we'd let him go and not brought someone in. But as long as they had someone looking to come in, and they always almost missed the chance from McCurdy. But as long as they had someone coming in, then Deutsch had to go, I think.
I want to get your thoughts on your manager, Lee Johnson. Was he the man you wanted, or were you surprised that he was given the job in the first place?
When he was up against Tomasin, he definitely wasn't the man I wanted because you can't. A European manager who's knocked Rangers out of the Champions League is a dream for most Hibs fans, I'm sure. But when it came out, it was allegedly Tomasin had asked for a lot of money and was maybe not sure over the project. And when you've got someone that's not sure, you've got someone that wants it very badly, as much as Lee Johnson was said to have wanted it, and he's spoken very well. I think he's got the right idea. I don't know how many of the signings in the summer were his signings, but I think it's such a difficult one when we've had so many managers in the last sort of few seasons, and they all come in, they talk a good game. Maloney came in and talked a good game, and it didn't work out for him. Johnson has done the exact same thing, and you've got to just hope that this sort of direct attacking, sort of entertaining football that we've been told that we're going to see, that you've got to hope it comes to fruition at some point. But he's been very honest, and that's always a nice thing. He was very honest after the St Mirren game. He's been very honest in most of the time that he's spoken. So I think that's as much as I can sort of go off right now. The fact he's been totally honest with fans. Honestly, if we hadn't got McCurdy and he'd walked out the door because of it, I wouldn't blamed him. But yeah, you've just got to have hope that one of these 40 managers that we bring in a season's got to come good.
Yeah, it was at Livingston or St Mirren where somebody shouted, "Lee, your team's brutal," and he went, "You're not wrong, mate."
St Mirren, oh God, they were awful.
So in terms of Hibs, I mean, what would you deem a successful season for Hibs this season? As I say, you've signed a lot of players, they need time to gel. But what's your hopes for Hibs this season?
I think it's got to be fourth or fifth. Third, I mean, you've got to aim for third, obviously. But I think third spot, maybe with injuries, Hearts have got, maybe they're up for grabs a little bit more. And Aberdeen have come out swinging as well. I think you've always got to aim for that third spot or aim as high up the league as possible. You never know the way Rangers are going at the moment. But you've got to aim up high as league as possible. I think a successful season is any European spot for me. I think fourth or fifth. And in what should be a transition period, you've got a new manager, a lot of new signings, a lot of players need to gel. If they can get European football going into next season with a year under the manager's belt and another year for the players to a lot of young players to age and develop, then yeah, I think that's what they should be aiming for.
We've got about 4 minutes left of the show. It's been a busy one tonight. It's still Ajax 3, Rangers 0 after 50 minutes. But let's touch on my team now. I can't believe I've actually let this go with 4 minutes to go. But let's talk about Hearts, who play Istanbul Başakşehir tomorrow, and I have been practicing that. It's going to be a difficult game. First game in the group stage of the Conference League. Now, I hope that Robbie plays the strongest team. I have got no idea if he will. Conal, as a Hibs fan, obviously hoping Istanbul win tomorrow, but what do you think Hearts will do tomorrow?
If I could get into the mind of Robbie Neilson, it would be a horrible thing. But for your sake, I hope he behaves himself and doesn't try something stupid. And he's got to go for it. That's what Neilson has to do, because Hearts have shown when they've played attacking football this season, they've been excellent. In that first half against Zurich, thought they were brilliant. I think in sort of first 20 minutes of the second half against Hibs, I thought they were brilliant. They've scored a lot of goals this season in attacking football with Mackay, with Forrest, with Shanklin now spearheading that attack. They are brilliant going forward. So, and sitting defensively without Halkett and losing Suter in the summer, Kingsley being in and out of the team through injury, sitting defensively isn't the way to go forward for Hearts at all. I think they've got to attack the game tomorrow, and there's no better thing to do it than Tynecastle first game. I think that's their best chance of getting 3 points is tomorrow night.
100%. This is what I said earlier. European nights are completely different. They're a really different atmosphere, and I hope he does go for it tomorrow. He's got to play Lawrence Shankland, Alan Forrest, Barry Mackay. He's got to play the best players. But I mentioned this on Monday as well, and something that does frustrate me about Robbie at times is I think at times he worries about the opposition too much. Now, don't get me wrong, Istanbul are a hard side. They've got Mesut also playing for them, a really good player. But at home, you've got to get the crowd on side, because I think if Hearts can get the first goal tomorrow, we give ourselves a chance.
Oh, definitely. Robbie, I think there's too many times when Robbie Neilson doesn't realise the players he's got to hit in front of him that can take it to a team. And Hearts especially, the recruitment in the last couple of seasons has been unbelievable. Hearts have got a really strong side this season. And yes, injuries have impacted them a lot, but there's no reason that they shouldn't go out tomorrow and attack with the players that they've got going forward. Mackay is one of the best players in Scotland, probably top three outside Old Firm. Shanklin's an excellent striker that you would be probably putting money on to score 15, 20 goals this season. They really, really need to go for it tomorrow, and Tynecastle will get behind them if they deserve to get behind them. Robbie can't sort of take the wind out the sails of the fans. I think he needs to just go for it tomorrow.
I completely agree. So on that basis, I'm going to get your prediction tomorrow for Hearts against Istanbul Başakşehir.
My heart says 3-0 Istanbul, 1-0 ahead.
Oh, do I go positive or do I go what I think it might be? I'm going to go positive. I'm going to go Heart, because I don't think we'll not concede. I'm going to go Hearts 2, Istanbul 1. I think Lawrence Shankland and Barry Mackay. So it just remains for me to thank Conal for his debut tonight. It's been a great show. We will be back again on Friday with the boys, previewing that game and the games of the weekend. Thank you all for joining us, and we shall see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers.